That's loud. Okay, everybody, let's start to settle back in for our 10:45 staffing and placement update. I'm back. Everybody have a nice break? Okay, we have a couple of housekeeping things. No more long breaks because I've got a list this long. People have had too much time on their hands. All right, first off, raise your hand if you know who your training coordinator is. Could you pick them out of a lineup if you saw them? We're in the post office. Okay, that was a question. Everybody passed. From the work groups, I think we had 4 groups that did not get to provide their feedback from the working group we had this morning when we split up. Is that right? Can we get the spokespersons from those groups? Because we're going to send you with those folks now to get your questions and comments answered. Do I have any spokespersons? There's 1, 2, just 2 of you? He was right here. Yeah. You guys you're free to meet up with them, and when he gets back, we'll send him as well.
So Chris, what breakout room are they in? 219?
What breakout room do y'all want to meet at? 219 sounds good. Yep. Okay, so as I walked around earlier, I noticed we have another visitor that wasn't with us yesterday. So Valdry Buford, he's Barbara King's deputy from AMA 20. He's with us today. Oh, I did not know that. You're responsible for the video? Very nice. I watched it last night a little bit, the replay of it. I look really good on TV. All right, so we're going to get right into our next segment.
Hey, Chris.
Yes.
Quickly, we have a follow-up question, and it's come in from 3 different people, so apparently it was on people's mind. What is this mysterious manager's training dashboard, and how can I access it? Can anybody answer that?
We'll answer that at 3 o'clock. I got 3 special people just for that. Do you want me to tell them who now? Three o'clock panel.
We will be talking to the manager's training dashboard at the 1400 session with myself, Jim Dosgow, and Wayne Coley. But just to let you know, it is similar to the manager's safety dashboard that is currently online. We're going to have the same type of things for training within that dashboard.
I think the question came up because somebody was dyslexic earlier and said the training manager's dashboard. 3 out of every 2 people.
Okay, that's settled. So I have 2 managers here to talk to you about placement. First, we got J.B. Gills. He's from here in Oklahoma. And right now you're acting ATO technical training manager. Onboarding manager.
Technical onboarding team.
And we also have Terry Kraft. I've never met Terry. I'm Chris.
You're the only person I've never met. Chris, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. So, Terry's the manager for the Technical Workforce Requirements Air Traffic Service Team. The reason why I wanted to introduce myself to Terry is his fun fact is total lie. He says, I am the best air traffic controller that ever was, and I'm here to tell him flat out to his face, you're wrong, because I was the best air traffic controller that ever was. That's right. That's where I was going with that. So we all think we're the best, right? JB's kind of funny because I like this too, except I talk to mine, and when I say this, you'll understand. So he loves anything to do with water, especially fish. Looking in an aquarium, going fishing, eating fish, doesn't matter. I talk to my fish. I'll get right down and talk to my fish as I'm feeding them. So anyway, welcome.
All right. Thanks, guys. So as Chris said, my name is JB Gills. I'm here in Oklahoma City, part of the technical onboarding team for management services. And Terry Kraft is with me today because I don't have all the answers. So Terry's here to provide a lot of history, a lot of background, a lot of answers on, you know, why you get who you get. And about 3 weeks, was it 3 weeks ago, Abby, that you came and did the tour down here, where you came through Academy? So we had the pleasure of hosting Abby down here and her team to kind of get to see what we do. And so we thought it'd be a good idea to get up in front of you, talk about hiring, what's going on this year, you know, what's going to happen in the years to follow, and just kind of take your questions. Later, I want to get some feedback on how we can make the process better. But first, I'm going to have Terry go through and talk about kind of the history of how it's been and why it is what it is today. So I'll let Terry go first, and then I'll kind of talk about where we're at right now and the placement process, just because it's interesting and to see if you guys have some ideas on how we can make it better.
Thank you.
Are you not on?
Thank you.
Hello.
Okay, there we go. Can everyone hear me? I have a big mouth anyway, so. Now, where's my parameters? Right here? There is way too much documentation going on in this meeting. So, thank you. I want to not disclaim, but I want to offer up proof that I am the best air traffic controller this agency's ever seen. This came about when I was at the Academy. I already knew it, but I taught at the Academy for 4 years, and one of the best jobs I ever had, because the new hires, they wanted to be there. It was back in the mid-2000s. There weren't that many like today. So on the first day of class, I would go in and sit in the back 15 minutes before 7 o'clock start time. It's their first day in classroom. Then I get up at 6:59 and 45 seconds and go lock the door. And then I go, you do not know how lucky you are to have me, the best air traffic controller this agency has ever seen, as your lead instructor. And then they just looked at each other, and I go, and I have a plaque I bought that proves it. Anyway, that leads into a discussion about self-confidence and confidence in what you're doing, because, you know, every one of you, if I said, how many times have you said all air traffic controllers are fill in the blank? Everyone has an opinion on what air traffic controllers are like. And as you can see, there are many who think they're the best, but I guarantee you he didn't have a plaque. And 2 years later, somebody asked to see this plaque. I really didn't have one. So I went online, 2006, that was big time then, ordered one, brought it in as if I'd had it myself, and it's in my office today, and it's a great conversation piece. But it's well deserved because I bought it. So, I don't aim this way. Oh, there we go. There are just way too many rules in this game. All right. So, basically, I'm going to give, oh, here we go. Okay, this is going to be, okay. Okay, you run the show. Okay, so our mission. So we're both in management services. This function used to be divided up between terminal and en route combined up, and management services, a shared service, which I'm proud to work for, took this over. We brought the en route people and the terminal people together. We've made major changes on this in the last 3 years, 4 years. But our mission has always been from the beginning to be transparent in what we're doing. For some of us older, what was the term used this morning, long in the tooth? Yeah, that one. We know how things used to work. We have tried as an agency with our best effort to get facilities staffed the way that we need them to get staffed. We have tried everything under the sun, from what facility do you want to go to and we'll pay you to get there, to now we're telling you where you're going to go, to now we're going to tell you where you're going to go, but we're going to give you a few more choices. So if you go to the next slide, I want to look back a little bit for context. I'm not going to get down in the weeds about the numbers and the math problems that we do, except to point out the differences in what we used to do. Prior to this, this new process that evolved in 13 and 14, there was a culmination of a number of things that came together all at once, seemingly unrelated at the time, but turned into the biggest change in hiring and staffing and placement that we have ever done as an agency, all at one time, ever. And I guarantee you we had to get it right because nobody was going to take this on again. So if you remember back in time, at least through the 1980s, mic up. Okay. During the 1980s, we had a little event back in 81, which is actually still driving everything we do. In 1981, the controllers went on strike. We took 100% and 90% of the workforce and replaced them in 8 years as opposed to spread out over 20. I got to hold them. I don't have a pocket. So we had this big bulge going through the system, and then it realized itself, as many remember, in 2006 and 2004 and 5 when the administrator was on the Hill, and we were actually reliving that story out in the hallway prior to this. And then in 2006, we saw the biggest hiring we had done since the 1980s. The selection process was subjective. It was, and this is not a bad thing, it was like, who do we know, where do they want to go, let's put them there. Let's get as many people to where they want to go as we can. Unfortunately, there's a lot of facilities that don't seem to be desirous in nature for some reason. So we always have had problems, even back then, to getting those facilities filled. The placement accompanied the offer. So I want to hire you, Larry, and am I still okay in the right box? Okay, because I'm afraid to move. I want to hire Larry. So Larry, I'm going to offer you Roswell, I'm going to use Oakland Center. I'm going to hire you for Oakland Center. I'll take it. Larry says, I'll take it. It's a job. I'm getting in the FAA. I'm realizing my dream. I'm going to be a controller. So he says, yeah, I'll take it. So now there's a lot of things that have to happen before Oakland ever sees that body. So Oakland needs 20 people next year, or let's say they need 60 people. So they hire 60 people. Out of those 60 people, 40 of them end up never even responding, never even accepting the offer. 20 more of that 40 end up not being able to pass a medical or a background investigation. Now Oakland needed 60, they're down to 20 now, right? So then they go to the academy, and if everybody remembers that momentous event in January of 2014 when there were 18 people in class for the first class after we cut off controller hiring, and all 18 people were going to Oakland Center, and guess how many Oakland Center got out of that class? 0. So a requirement of 60 turned into 0 bodies. So that is a problem that we had to fix. So everything was still, but the only same is everything was still based on a controller workforce plan. So if you go to the next slide. I went back and looked at the controller workforce plan for 2010, and by now we should only be hiring 1,100 people. Based on the projections from that year. I need all those visuals. Y'all just do that. let's see, this year we were supposed to hire 1,200, 1,100. We were going to balance this thing out, and we were going to be great for the next generation that had to do this that came after us, right? Well, then some things happened politically, which we have absolutely no control of. At the same time, there's sequestration, the same time as the furloughs, so all of us didn't have to take that second Friday off or that first Monday off. We just decided we're going to not hire controllers because the easiest people not to pay are the people you're not paying yet, right? If they ever ask us what will happen if they cut off controller hiring again, we have enough data to realize it takes us 3 years to make up 1 year when we cut off controller hiring. Fast forward to 2017, which is the official forecast that has been released to Congress, and we are supposed to hire 1,781 last year, 1,610 last year, and we exceeded that goal. Wait a minute, am I in the right one? Yes, and then 1,781 for this year, we are going to exceed that goal. And then next year is supposed to be 1,781, but based on, I'm going to take all the credit, even though our ALA partners are sitting like 2 feet from me, but they can't get to me because there's a box here. Because we've exceeded our hiring targets for the last 2 years, and okay, attrition hasn't played out like we thought because we were being very conservative. The number is actually going to be, as announced by Terry Bristol last week, 1,701. And by the March Controller Workforce Plan next year, it could even go down for 18 and 19, or at least 19. So what do we do now? Currently, the announcements back then, one of the other things that we didn't talk about were all the announcements. We had 7 different announcements out for different things: CTO, previous experience, VRA, new hire, off the street, CTI, RMC. We had an announcement for anybody. The purpose of those announcements are well-intentioned, right? If you can get a CTO, we can put them straight at the facility. There's nothing that the academy should be able to teach them, right? They've already demonstrated they can certify at a facility. Same thing with an RMC who was, I'm not an RMC, a VRA who had previous experience as a controller. And we did that to start with. But down the road, we would have people at the same facility, and the manager would make a decision to send one of them to training at the academy and the other one not. And guess what? The one that went to the academy passed. The one who didn't go failed. And so we made a decision in about 2009 that said everyone will go to the academy. That decision changed a lot of things and knocked a lot of dominoes out down the road. In 2014, the barrier analysis was conducted. That led to findings that there were barriers, and one of those barriers is that you have 7 different announcements with 7 different qualifications, yet you treat them all the same. So as a result, we came out with the all sources, 1 announcement. The next year, we were able to get a previous experience, and I think that's pretty much where we're going to be. You either have no experience, and we have a bargain that we will teach you everything you need to know about air traffic. A question already?
Yeah, so a question just came in, and it says, I'm watching this on my lunch break, and I wanted to know what this has to do with training coordinators.
So so we have created a problem for a qualification for training, and we're going to show you those numbers. So the people that we have hired over the last, and I'll get there, is that now we have the 2 different experience announcements. Previous experience, they go straight to the facility, and the no experience go to the academy where we teach them everything we need to know, or at least they need to know to be successful. Can we? Do we need to? I'm sure I'm going to cover this stuff.
So you're standing in front of the slides so people can't see them.
Chairs? Okay. Got it.
I'm so confused. Right. Okay. So then so the problem we solved is that the only people who are, when Oakland Center is on the placement list, Oakland Center will get bodies now. That's the biggest change. And by the way, it's at the needs of the agency. Everything, again, is controller workforce plan based. That is our starting point for everything. We work with our partners in ALA. It used to be a very dynamic discussion every year about we were going to put 100 people at X facility through the ERR process, and we were going to backfill for them. The ERR thing never happened, and we did backfill for a lot of places and made them fat while other places were suffering. Next. Just to show you, these are the controller numbers that I was talking about, and last year for the first time, and this goes all the way back to 1970, but we, for the first time since 2009, saw an increase in our controller headcount. That is what we've been recovering from since 2013, because when we stopped hiring controllers, there were still people walking out the door. So we've put ourselves in a deficit, which is leading to what we did, and we call it balancing the workforce. So we started out with, we have no one inbound, and all we have is what we have now minus the people who are going to walk out the door. We said, how do we get those people in the right places to make everybody hurt the same? So we all know that there's facilities out there that have never wanted for people, right? They could select people, 2 years release date, don't care, make it 3-year release date. I don't need them now, but I know everybody wants to come here, right? Meanwhile, at Oakland Center, Melissa Holmes, the ATM, walks in every Monday morning, and there's 5 people been selected out. And yes, they have 2-year release dates, but guess what? In 2 years, those 5 people every week start walking out the door. And places like Oakland Center, New York Center, and some other places, we're left with a deficit, and we're in a posture of continuously training all the time for all the other facilities, working 6-day work weeks. Like Abby said earlier this morning, it shouldn't be drama when somebody wants to take leave. We should have a balance in the workforce. So there were some things in the placement process where it's basically a math problem, and I think that's on the next slide. So this is just a graphic. It's out of date now because we have updated our numbers thanks to our partners in technical training and training quota person. Sherry Higgins and the person on my team, thank you very much. We have updated our training numbers to show the true accuracy of the success rate to CPC and time to CPC. This is just basically a scatter chart that says this is where we are today, this is where we'll be. Yellow, top right-hand corner, Orlando, Florida. No problem, 146% to their target. You can probably guess what that bottom red one is all the way at the bottom. Nope, that's N90. There are places worse than Oakland, staffing-wise. So our goal was to get everyone in the middle. Green is our middle. Green is everybody is around the 85, 86, 87% CPC, 10, 11, 12, 13% trainees, right? We know that's not true today. That's what we want to get to. That's our mid to end state, right? Every facility has people in training, but the majority of their people overwhelmingly are CPCs. But to get to that, we made a conscious decision in 14 and 15 to take all of our new hires that were tower and put them at no higher than ATC 7s. We made a conscious effort and a decision to stuff those 4, 5, 6s, and 7s to the gills where they have a much higher success rate, and we have Dana Broach from CAMI in the back who can verify that with data because everything we do is data decided. Unlike in 2006 and 7, we didn't throw them a new hire, which we called a Gen Pub, to LaGuardia, JFK, Philadelphia, Miami, Atlanta. We wanted to put these people in places where they could certify, perfect their craft, trademarked, and then move on to higher levels. Out of that came, during that process, we reached an agreement with our partners, and I truly say partners in this because they have the same objective we do. They don't want their bad facilities to continue to get worse and their great facilities to allow everybody in the world to get leave with no notice because they have so many people, right? So we as now known as the National Centralized ERR Panel, which is basically the new ERR process. I know it's contentious. I know that there are perceived issues, but this is, again, to balancing the workforce. So in the 14 and 15, we stuffed those 4, 5, 6s, and 7s. And then the ERR process, we said, now we need to move some people to the 7, 8s, and 9s. Did we get some that moved to 10s, 11s, and 12s? Absolutely. But remember, 6 years ago, we were putting them in gen pubs off the street, 10 people off the street in these ATC 10, 11, 12s. The difference today, yes, are they prepared? It remains to be seen. Will there be changes? There probably are going to be changes. But we could not, because when we walked into this 3 years ago, we had 11 different IG investigations going on into our hiring and our placement and our staffing. Our field facilities were telling the Inspector General when they came out to visit, I don't know when people are coming. I don't know where they're coming from. Nobody tells us anything. And it took us 2 years to close all of those IGs. So basically what we did is we said, we're gonna move people. I cannot justify to the political leaders, because we are a political organization, whether we like it or not. Thank God we're not energy, right? Or the EPA, but because they don't know what's going on. At least we have a mission, we know what we're supposed to do. So we said we're gonna move as many people as we can, and the statistics, and I didn't bring them, but I know there were some questions in the hallway. About half of the people that go to these 10s, 11s, 12s comes out of 8s, 9s, and 10s. Come out of 8, 9s, and 10s, and the other half come out of 4. There's very few 4s, but 5, 6s, and 7s. We're watching them. We utilize National Training Database. We're watching to see how successful they were. NACA is watching how successful they were. And we have done things in the interim, i.e. for 7, 8, and 9s, that we are now pushing them up for ERR processes all the way up to 100% of their projected CPC. Before it was the national average. The reason is we want more of those 4, 5, 6s, and 7s to go to 7, 8s, and 9s. We want to open it up more for the 7, 8, 9s to go to the 10s, 11s, and 12s. We think, and we have the data to prove it, that our training programs are better when you come in as a CPCIT, because you don't have to be taught how to put a headset on. You know what a 3120 is. You know the culture, that you will be much more successful. En route, different story. They were built with training departments to handle gen pubs or no experience. And the Academy has done amazing things with the progressive grading system, where we have the data to show, and I don't know if it's still preliminary data, but what we lose at the Academy, we would have lost at the facility. So we have become much more successful at the facility because we're not pushing as many people out of the Academy. In other words, we've tightened up the requirement at the Academy, and thus the field is seeing less of the training failures at the field facilities for the progressive grading. I already covered most of that. Go ahead. This is why I don't like slides, because I don't keep up. The placement process, I'm going to give you a high overview. Any of you want a detailed briefing on the math behind it all? Is basically we look at your current CPC target, which was negotiated with NACA. We are in the process of doing modeling based as opposed to negotiated numbers, and ALA is involved in that. It's the Controller Workforce Resource Group. And what they're doing is trying to come up with a model that we can run that tells us what our target is instead of us negotiating. Because there are some facilities out there that we're off on the bad side of the target, and it's hurting them. And there are some that we were off on the high side, and it's hurting them and the lower because they're getting more bodies than they probably need. So basically we look at the current hiring, the attrition that we get from ALA, the training success rate that we get from AJI, and then we calculate what their projected CPC to target will be at the end of that training cycle. There's lots of other things that we want to do down the road, is build the model for a year out and 2 years out. But the dirty little secret is that we're very conservative. If any of you saw the numbers, we just changed it this month. Last month, our projected target was in the 87%. Now it's up to 92.3. The reason is because those facilities and the new data from 2010 through 14 show a much better success rate at the facilities because we're putting them in the smaller facilities and we're down to individual facilities rates. Do we still have some problems? Yes. But we only have 14 facilities in the whole system that are below their current their current CPC to target and their projected. Now we know where to focus our efforts, not on the person who yells the loudest or the facility that yells the loudest. So that's the big changes, and everything we do in the ATO, including NEST. If you're not familiar with NEST, that's when a person is unsuccessful in training. They go through the process. Everything is according to this list. We publish a list. That's what the Academy gets, and JB will get into more detail on the list. But those new hires are going to our facilities that we need them most at, so the people that have already demonstrated that they can certify can move up and be a benefit in a higher facility. Will they get the first place they ever want to go? Absolutely not. I did not get the first place I ever wanted to go. But we have employees that have been sitting out there trying to get out of their facility for 15 years and have done nothing but train new hires and new hires and new hires and demonstrate they could do it, that can go to another facility and be CPC at that facility in 3 to 6 months. Whereas we put a new hire at that facility and they'll be a CPC in 2 years. So it is planned. We have done some amendments and adjustments thanks to our colleagues in Oklahoma City. They get more selections than they got 2 years ago. If 8 people graduated, the next 8 on the list was what they got. Now they're getting twice the number of slots, so there is more variety in the list, but it is still targeting the facilities that we need them at. It is not going to be you're going to come out of the academy most likely and go to Seattle or Atlanta where they have 100 ERRs from other centers inbound to them. And we owe it to our current employees to reward them and let them make their final move than to give someone off the street who hasn't demonstrated yet that they can certify their in-facility and then not be successful. I covered that. I covered that. This is the 14 I told you about. I told you about our secret, improving, and then the inset process. I covered that. And again, that is about balancing what we have and moving the people from where we can lose them to where we need them. We're in the mid-state right now. This will not last forever. As more people certify in these lower level facilities, we're going to be back to the 1990s where we had a very, very mature workforce with lots of experience, unlike 8 years ago when everybody, us long in tooth were leaving and the newbies were coming in and they had very little experience but were CPCs, right? We're heading back into the 90s, little delayed, but back into the 90s where they have more years of service, they have more time as CPC, and you will see from the Controller Workforce Plan the numbers go down drastically starting in 18, 19, and 20, where we're down below, we're into the triple digits as opposed to the 4 digits approaching 2,000. So, next. And then that's our hiring goal, and then JB can get into the weeds about the placement process.
Yeah, so Terry mentioned that we are going to exceed our goal. Carl, so any questions for Terry? Okay, we do have a few questions.
Go.
Get your microphone.
There's rules.
Has any consideration been given to employees that come from lower level facilities going to upper level facilities? Instead of sending them directly to the facilities, let's say a level 5 or something that needs RTF or TSO if they're coming to like a TRACON, instead of having them report to the facility, have them go assign for Oklahoma and then sent to the facility instead of us having to send them back out. They have to have, if you're coming to a TRACON, you understand the question. Yeah, so it has consideration been given for that gap to be filled, opposed to them reporting to the facility and possibly staying at the facility and not being able to get the needed training until they can get these courses before they arrive, so we can just continue their training.
I think that's an AJI question, is it not?
Yeah, so the selecting manager can do all of that before they ever get there.
And we can talk policy this afternoon.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll cover that later. No. Okay, another question in the corner.
I was just going to say, we've done that. I picked up a level 5 tower and had them RTF before they came in our door. It's possible.
Yeah, we've done it as well. What I'm saying, like they're doing the process.
Apparently, you have to speak really loud.
Okay, so we have also done that at Potomac, but my question is to make it more systemic. As we're doing with the FLMs, trying to get them established to the training that is needed prior to them reporting to their facility, it has consideration, apparently not, been given for lower level facilities that may need this training prior to arriving, being done through the regional office or whatever, once it's determined that they're going to be. And I understand later today we will get that answer. Yeah, just clarifying my question.
All right, we'll keep rolling. Any other questions?
One more here.
Okay.
Can you go back one slide? There we go. All right, James Stark from New York District. The categories are, they include the projected CPC target above national average. How often is the data used for those projections updated?
Once a month. We could actually do it every day, but that would cause mass confusion because no one, so here's the problem, challenge. We use this data for everything now. We use it for NEST, INCEPT, ERRs, hardships, everything. Deviation, frontline manager deviation. Everything relies on this priority placement tool. Okay, so the ATO has adopted it. So if we run it this week, and if we ran it tomorrow and 2 people just left the facility, then the manager would say, okay, let me wait a day before I make this request because I know 2 people are leaving tomorrow, so people would be chasing numbers. We actually were at a place where we were going to run it once a week, but between the directors of operation, air traffic, and NACA themselves, they needed something that stayed in place for at least a month so that we can make the decision on that and not what today was, because otherwise we'd be chasing dates around. Okay, when did you submit this selection? Does it have to be deviated? Well, I did it Monday when your projected was this, but 2 people just failed training, and we only expected 1 to fail training, so now your projected goes way down, so the deviation is not going to be approved. So we decided just to stay with 1 time a month.
All right, so I'm not sure how the different ingredients are weighted, but I know for a fact that I don't know how far back you go in determining like the success rate at a facility, but so that's pretty contentious because I'm just going to use Newark as an example. Had a particularly not attractive success rate a number of years back. Completely revamped the training program like we're expected to do. You address things that need addressed. And we've been at 100% for over a couple of years now. We're not showing it 100%.
Okay, so I'll be glad to answer that. So here's the problem. We hire 2,000 or replace 2,000 people throughout the system in any given year based on ERs and new hire placements, right? So one of the problems with that is if I got hired in 2016, last FY, 92% of those people are still in training. 8% have failed. So basically, I have a 0% success rate for every facility in FY16, right? Because no one has been able to CPC yet. I know there are outliers. I'm using the exaggeration to a tower. Maybe there's someone who CPC. So we made a decision, and this was joint, and this is something that AJI has been doing since I was in AJI many, many years ago, is that we look at the year that a person went and onboarded at that facility and how many of them are still in process, are still in training. We don't call it failure rate because there's many reasons people leave. They resign, they retire, they die. It's always a number that makes me laugh from ALA because they actually have deaths. There's many reasons people leave. We're only looking at the success rate, okay? So in 2010 through 14 is the data we're using because less than 10% of the people who came on duty, believe it or not, there's 5 people who started this job in 2010 are still in training. 5 people from 2010. 7% of the people that started in 14 are still in training. 15, it's like 37%. So if we use 15 numbers, we highly weight the failures against the successes. Your facility, those numbers are not up to today. In your particular case, if you know it's 100%, I guarantee you there is no way you will always be 100%. Someone will fail the training program. The numbers say that. So we're looking at a 5-year outlook. As soon as 2015 is less than 10%, then we will adopt 15 and pull out 10. So we had to have a number that we could replicate across the system and not by individual facilities.
So have you considered area-based hiring to alleviate persons transferring to get back home after the facility has invested time into training them?
Area.
Have you considered area-based hiring to alleviate persons transferring to get back home after the facility has invested time into training them?
So giving the new hire a choice again before they even come on board. That puts us right back where we were.
No, not giving them a choice, but let's just say Oakland Center. Let's say Oakland Center. Focusing efforts on hiring personnel in Oakland area so they are apt to say, I want to stay there, as opposed to, I'm from New York, you send me to Oakland. Oakland puts 3 years into training me, I give them 1 good year of time, then I'm transferring back to New York. So those facilities that you're finding hard to staff, focus efforts on training or pulling personnel from those areas, recruiting from those areas to train them, so hopefully they'll stay.
So ideally we could do that. Here's the problem. I can't give you a plus up in the hiring and selection process because of where you live. If I put an application out in Oakland, which we did when we first started the ATSAT many years ago, we targeted New York. One announcement went out where it was mostly New Yorkers because it was in a local newspaper. The next announcement went, people were flying in from all over the country to go take the ATSAT test and swore they wanted to live in New York and did the very same thing. So they just wanted the job, right? And the same thing happened in a couple other places. So we cannot, unfortunately, we can recruit to death, but in today's world, we can't do anything in Cedar Falls, Iowa, right? Yeah, Cedar Falls, Iowa, that everybody doesn't know about. So unfortunately, we can target, recruit, but we can't tell somebody because you don't live in New York, you can't apply. And we're actually doing a program, I don't know how, I guess it's pretty public, for N90 that we're working through the process, where we're going to target New York. But that doesn't mean someone from Cedar Rapids, Iowa can't come and apply and go to work at New York. That's our challenge.
And a lot of that's also a human resources decision that, we partner with them very closely, but a lot of times we're bound by the restrictions they have. That's why we have 2 hiring sources right now. And we're looking for other options to be able to target better, but we're kind of tied to what HR will let us do right now too. So we're working on those things.
Is there going to be any modification to the ERR, Employee Relocation Request, MOU, Memorandum of Understanding?
So the MOU was just updated recently. There will probably be, so we are watching the data of people who go from lower levels to extremely high levels. I shouldn't say extremely high. Make big jumps, right? More than 5 or 6 steps in the level process. So we are watching that, and if we come and get the data to determine that that is not a good move system-wide, then that might happen. But right now, I don't see any other new MOU issues, except now that our national average is up to 92.3 or 93.2 or something. There may be some changes in the categories, but that's always ongoing, and part of the MOU says that we will look at these factors every periodically to make the changes that are needed.
Along the same lines about the training issue, you know, people go to a facility, spend 2 or 3 years, try to bid out, and then they can't. So then I saw a slide there where you had hardships. So the question I have is, how are the hardships qualified, and then who validates the hardship? Because it appears some people may use that avenue to get out of the
That's a
hard-to-staff
strictly
facility.
LMR issue. It has to be approved at the local level with the NACA rep and the air traffic manager. Then it gets forwarded to the service center, where the service center director of operations and his counterpart in NACA, the RVP, they're the ones that make those approvals. We don't have anything to do with it. I don't want to know all the stuff that goes into a hardship because it's way too much personal information.
Can you address the high staffing targets used in the priority tool ERR process that has unnecessarily limited controller releases at some facilities?
The only thing I can address is that is the number that we negotiated 3 years ago. We are in the process now of renegotiating a tool as opposed to a negotiated number. So that is ongoing, and probably we'll see the results of it here pretty soon. They have been working for at least 3 months on a model. There's a lot of people involved. So when that happens, there will be probably some changes to facility targets.
I really want to, oh wait, what does it say? I really want to know about the new hire process. Oh, can we hear from JB?
All right. Yes. Got it. Okay, so I have about, what, 10 minutes? All right. So let's jump in. So as Terry said, we are doing really well on our numbers this year on what we brought on new hires for no experience attending academy, plus our previous experience new hires that we're getting mostly out of the military. We far exceeded the number getting on board and placed in facilities this year. So we're looking really good on our numbers this year. So we have the 2 hiring sources. We have what's called Track 1, that's the no experience, that anybody can apply on. That's the CTI students, just also off the street folks. Certain groups of veterans also can apply on that, and they have to attend the academy. So when we pick them up, we have anywhere over the last couple of years, we've had 30,000 people apply for those jobs. My team, actually Vanessa Garrison and Paul Crouch sitting in the audience here, our office is we're the selecting officials, so I'm named as the selecting official for all these folks. So Human Resources they do all the qualifications, they go through, they weed out those who don't meet the quals. They send them to take the ATSA. Whoever passes the ATSA gets referred. They're referred to us in quality ranking depending on how high they score. And then we go through and we make our selections. We go through that referral list. I think we had 9,000 sent to ATSA test, and they sent us about 6,000 qualified applicants that we needed to weed through. And we go through and we weed through all those applications to make sure they're not prior training failures, folks that, you know, for whatever reason, we shouldn't be spending more money to bring them back on that we've already spent. So we make those selections, and once they get selected, then they go through the clearance process. Clearance process could go really smoothly for some. For others, it could take 6, 8, 10 months. It could take forever. So we wait on those folks to get through that process. Human Resources administers that, gives them a class date for the academy. Based on the academy sets up classes according to the controller workforce plan and the numbers that we need to hire each year. And so these students get assigned to a class to come to attend academy. We also do track assignment based on what the controller workforce plan and the academy class schedule allows. We assign them to either en route or tower. Because they don't need any experience to have the job, We don't look at experience to assign them because they're going to be trained when they come to the academy for whatever option they're going into. So when they get to the academy, they spend 25 days in basics. They have to pass that. If they don't pass basics, which you'd be surprised at how many people don't pass basics after passing the ATSA, it's kind of interesting. And then once they finish basics, they go to the initial qual training. If they're in the tower track, they're there for 37 classroom days, en route's 59, and then they have to pass that, obviously, before we're going to send them out to a facility. All the students who come through the academy come here without a facility assignment, so they are assigned actually to our group. I'm their supervisor. Paul is also helping me, right? He's acting supervisor while I'm acting manager. And so we have at any given time 400 to 450 under 30-year-olds assigned to us on travel orders for 4 months, which can get interesting. We get to deal with lots of interesting situations. The good part about it is they're non-bargaining unit, so it simplifies things. They're on a temporary appointment, so if they act up, then we cut our losses and send them back on their way. But that can be interesting. So our team, while they're here at the academy, we do all their things like their time and attendance and their travel orders and things like that. But our main function is when they finish, our team is the one who places them. So about a week before they graduate, they get a list from the priority tool that Terry's team develops and publishes based on what the data says who needs people. And so we take that list. We take, like Terry kind of alluded to, they get 2 slots per graduate. I'll actually show you an example. Let's see. So this is a sample of a list. We just basically take the top. If it's a class of 18, we'll take the top 36 facility slots that are in priority. We make some of those slots at the top of the list mandatory so that those facilities who need people the most are getting someone. That's the way we ensure that the same facility does not just keep getting passed over every time. The students make their selections in class rank order. And they usually have a wide variety of facilities, but it is really, we don't manipulate the list. We have to do that to be fair. So, I mean, if Daniel, if you wanted to be somewhere in particular and you had reasons and you bring it to me that, hey, I'm going to make up a scenario. Daniel's divorced, he's got 3 kids, and he has to be at Fort Worth. And if I tell Daniel, yes, you get to go, then I have to let Francine go wherever she wants to. So in order to be fair to Francine, I can't be fair to Daniel. That's kind of how we administer the process to make sure that we're not playing favorites. We're not putting people where someone else wants them. As an academy graduate, you agreed to it. When you check that box that I'm willing to go anywhere you want to go, we hold you to that. Now, if you want to work something when you get out there and you want to file a hardship or you want to put in ERR papers, that's your right. But we have to maintain the integrity of this process so that we do make the facilities that are out there that need you, we make them healthy again. Once everybody's healthy, that opens up the ERR process, right? Right, Terry, that frees things up. So the issue we have, I've heard you guys talked about pass rates a little bit yesterday. If students are unsuccessful, they lose, for every student that's unsuccessful, they lose slots from the selection list. So in this example, only 13 out of the 18 graduated, so they lose the bottom 10 slots. So if you were top scorer in class and you wanted to go to Miami, but some of your classmates were not successful, they didn't apply themselves, you lost your chance to go to Miami. So we build in a little bit of teamwork into this so that everybody's on board trying to make their class successful. All right, so these are actually slides that I show that we talk to each starting class. We have a new class starting at least one a week, and I get up in front of them and I try to motivate them, have the right attitude, but I want them to know day one we are going to hold you to what you agreed to. When we agreed to send you through training and spend this money on you, We want you to be willing to go where we need you. So they get to see these slides, and just so I give them a dose of reality on day one so they can get it in their mind, okay, this is what I need to, this is what I agreed to. So they have to be successful to keep their job. They also have to be willing to go where we're going to send them to keep their job. If they say no, okay, we're going to cut our losses. And then and I give them that kind of what we just talked about. There are things that we just don't allow because it degrades the integrity of the process. And we do allow spouse accommodation for current controllers in the field to request their spouse who might be going through the academy to be placed with or near them. So the current controllers get to request that. But as an academy student, you go where we need you to, and you agreed to it before you walked in the door. We do, you may know this, a lot of you have dealt with this process, you know, travel to their facility. When they graduate, they get travel orders out to your facility, and we coordinate with the gaining manager on that day. We have them call the gaining manager and work out when they're going to report. So we really appreciate the feedback and your availability to help these new hires make this transition. From everything we have heard from our graduates, that, you know, all the gaining managers have been very, very responsive and very helpful to helping them make that transition from Oklahoma to wherever they go, you know, so we appreciate that. We also have the previous experience, and these folks have had to have 52 weeks of certified experience. It's a separate announcement that they apply on. Aviation Careers does the same thing. They publish the announcement, they do the qualifications on them, and they refer them to us for selection. We go through, weed those out. The step we add in this one for placement is I have a team of subject matter experts out in the field, some of them sitting in this room, who we send the resumes to of these selections, and our subject matter experts recommend type and level of facility to place them in based on their experience. So as those folks clear, we get the recommendation from the SME on where to put them, and it targets where we can utilize their experience the most and where to make them the most successful. But again, that is according to priority. They don't get to pick a specific facility. They just say, they're a level 8 up down would match their experience, and that's where we place them according to the priority tool. And those folks, they don't go to the academy, they go directly to your facility. All right. So Tech Ops, we won't even talk about that. We're out of time. So we got a question.
Can you speak to how you balance referrals and selections by Pool 1, CTI and vets, and Pool 2 for Track 1 applicants?
Oh, great question. So that balance is mandated by Congress. When they changed the hiring process and they took away all the specific hiring sources for the CTIs, Congress got involved, and Congress said, okay, you're going to hire from 2 pools, if you will, those who have CTI experience and certain veterans, and then general public. And you will hire within 10% of each of those pools. So if you hire 1,000 from the CTI pool, you have to hire 900 to 1,100 from the other pool. So they put a restriction on us that really kind of causes us some issues depending on what's going to happen, on how many applicants of each type we get. If we only get 500 off the street, then we can only hire 600 max out of the CTI, or whatever the numbers say. So it's tricky to balance. Actually, it's not tricky because we're mandated on what the math is. We don't get to make a judgment. We're kind of told what the judgment is. So we do our best to make that match what the controller workforce plan says we need.
Why random assignment by option?
Well, so there's not really, or not yet, a validated instrument to test someone prior to coming in if they would be more successful in one option or the other. Remember, they didn't have to have any experience to get this job. I know that those things are being worked on, right, Dana? They're working on tests that will predict, that can be validated, that will predict a greater chance of success in one option or the other, but that does not exist yet. So to be fair to everyone, we do random track assignment because there are benefits to going en route. So this is funny. I think it's funny. I tell my en route classes, I say, you at least have the benefit of knowing you're going to go somewhere where there's a Walmart and a stoplight. You don't get that when you go on the tower track. Also, you know, the academy trains for en route to a level 10, 11, or 12. Towers, we're only sending you a max of level 7, so there's a pay disparity there coming out of the academy, and we don't get to pick and choose who gets the higher pay.
Hey, JB, I got a question.
Yes.
Has there been any consideration, reference RPOs from the field? If you have an RPO in an en route facility, would they be more likely to go to an en route? Same thing with a terminal.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good question, Joe. So we do have some who we have assigned a track who have asked, I'm better suited for terminal because I was an RPO. And if the class schedules and the numbers allow, we will entertain option switches for those who have certain types of experience or specific education that can predict a better chance of success. So for those particular RPOs, if they've been working in a tower position, you know, and absolutely we'll entertain that request, and we've done a lot of that actually, probably 30 or 40 of them in the last couple announcements. Yeah.
Why can't we allow DEV, developmental, swaps to persons that have not started training at a facility? Caveat, not entered into stage 3 or 4 training.
Good question that I'm going to turn over to Terry Kraft. Why do we not let people swap facilities?
Oh, I have to get back in the box. Sorry. We don't allow, so this was a big discussion when we started this process 3 years ago. There was a lot of hesitation at the higher levels about people, because of the class rank and who gets to pick. There was thoughts from way above my level that people would make a selection only to swap it for something with somebody else for whatever nefarious reason that they thought this would happen. So we said no swaps out of the academy, and we have agreed to in the INSEPT MOU that there will be no swaps between devs until they certify and demonstrate that they can. Because all we're taking is a dev and then restarting them again, and then where does that end? So that's why it's only CPCs.
How are revisions to the ATSAT test going?
I have no idea. The revisions to the ATSAT. So the ATSAT test. So we started getting those applicants March, or was it May? I can't. So
the ATSA is complete.
yeah, the revision.
Everyone's take the ATSA now. There is no more ATSAT.
Yeah, I think the question, Terry, is how are those students on the new ATSA test? How are they performing? We've only had 1 or 2 classes actually finish from those who have taken the new test. We don't have a good sample size. So it's a very small group right now. We can't really determine.
And that'll come out of CAMI.
Yeah.
JB, what help do you need from this group?
Oh my goodness. Well, so kind of what I wanted to do, we're going to have a little break, not breakout, but we don't have time, Abby? Okay. Okay. So what I want from you, write down and send it in what your thoughts on how we can make the placement process better. I know you all have, we get ideas from students all the time on how we could make it better for them. Every single class. And with the thought in mind of us keeping the national airspace safe, balancing the workforce, filling those facilities that are less desirable, if you will. Keeping that in mind that that still needs to occur, what are your ideas on how we can change this? Like Terry said, we've tried a lot of different things. We've tweaked it. We've tried to make it have more options, like he said, for the students, and we've tried. So if you've got other ideas for us, we're open to entertaining those to see if it's manageable.
Does anybody in the room have any ideas? You can tell them because we've got 10 minutes.
Okay.
I have one question. I don't know if this would actually be your group, JB, or maybe with HR. When you send the experienced new hires to the field, they go straight to the field. They don't go to the academy. Is there any way to have them any further along in the process for emails, address, any type of anything? It's taking weeks, sometime months, to get them PIV, emails. They show up in ELMS the day they show up, but we can't get them in the ELMS because they don't have an email address. They don't have PIV. It's slowing them down really on the training into the field from weeks to months because of that. I've had 11 this year, and it's not getting any better on that end.
Good question, Scott. We know that's a challenge. In the last 3 months, we have partnered with the HR Corporate Engagement team. I don't know if you've seen that. HR Corporate Engagement has, for every other new employee, new hire outside of air traffic and tech ops, they were having onboarding telecons for gaining managers. They were contacting the new employee to make sure they were having everything ready when they came on board. They were reminding the gaining managers ahead of time, hey, here's your offer letter for your new employee. These are the steps you need to take before they get there. They were doing this for everybody else. So about 3 months ago, we started partnering with them, and they got involved with tech ops and air traffic now. So now, if you are getting a new hire, you will be getting contact from the HR Corporate Engagement team with instructions on how checklists, there's a checklist they're developing that should be, I think within the next month, distributed that's air traffic specific, facilities, not facilities specific, but specific to an air traffic manager on the steps that you need to take for your new hire. Pre-arrival, day 1, 30 days, 60 days, 90. So that process, we're trying to tackle that and make that process a lot smoother for that transition. We're trying to get you the information as quick as we can so that you have it in hand and knowing you're going to get somebody. And then that corporate engagement team should be making contact with each of the hiring managers to make sure they've got that info. Does that help?
We haven't tried to put it in advance. We'll try one the next time we do it.
Okay.
Okay, a question from Dwayne McQuillan, Anchorage Center again. Positive comment, kind of. We just terminated an employee 2 months before they came out of probation because we had to wake them up at 1 o'clock in the afternoon for a 1 o'clock shift to come to work. And we're getting ready to go to stage 3 with them.
Did I send him to you? I'm sorry.
Yeah. So here's the deal. He didn't show up for work because he spent most of the night gaming. So necessarily, gaming person may not be the person you're looking for. I personally used to do a lot of interviews before we started this new process. I did interviews with people, did that big long page format, wrote them, big long deal. Do you do any background checks, as in calling previous employers? Because he made the comment that he got fired from his previous job for not coming to work. Do you ever do that?
We do not do that. And
So
that was a
I think that's
decision
an
at
important
deputy
process.
director level of management services.
So the background investigation piece.
Mike?
The background investigation piece is actually covered during the security. They should have uncovered that like it's a big secret. What we end up getting and be able to make a decision on we're going to fire or not hire someone because they got fired from their previous job because they overslept, I think I don't know that we ever see it, and if we would ever get down to that level, unfortunately. Like I said, the interviews themselves, I don't know that someone would say, yes, I got fired from my previous job because I couldn't make it to work on time in an interview. And mostly the interview has been relegated to, can they speak the English language in a clear, concise manner. That's basically what it ended up being used for. But I think we're going to get back to some kind of corporate interview process.
Yeah.
We got a question here, but please share where they can send their input to you. Where do you want it sent?
Oh, I was going to have them write it on a paper and give it in the back like they have been doing.
I'm Tim Sardan from Denver Tracon. I know there's a lot of controversy back in 2014 on the biographical test or exam, and is that still no experience still taking that, and what exactly is that screening for?
I will defer to the expert in the house.
Yeah, Dana's going to cover that this afternoon, right, Dana?
Well, I can touch on it, but
Get a mic. And then we got to cut it.
yeah, yes, the biographical assessment is required for Pool 2. It's part of the qual standard.
We don't know what it. Yeah.
I'm not going to talk about content.
Okay.
Right.
It is not the same biotest that was given in 2014. I can tell you that. It has been revised.
Yeah. Okay. Are we good? All right. Turn it back over to Chris.
Thank you both. That's awesome. Y'all hungry? What is one thing that I never miss? Who said that? Okay, we got a little bit of homework. So we've passed out cards to y'all. These little 3x5 cards we passed out. We did it yesterday twice. We're going to do it today twice. So what did we get right? What do we need to tweak? And what did we miss altogether? We'd love that feedback. If you wouldn't mind giving it to us and passing it to the middle, we'll pick them up during lunch. And other than that, yesterday I told you to be back at noon. Does anybody remember that? You did? Well, today you got till 1.
Will you also tell us what worked, what didn't work, and what we miss on the cards? Thanks.
Okay. See y'all later.